Well, Manchester City's bright start to the Premier League campaign has been short-lived. They had that dominant 4-0 win against Wolves on the opening day, but then lost to Thomas Frank's Tottenham Hotspur and were outscored as well, outshot along the way, 12-10. It finished 2-0. And then today against Brighton, Manchester City were up 1-0 thanks to Erling Haaland, but Brighton came back and won 2-1. I mean, Nigel, we've seen Manchester City have slow starts in the past. It feels like this is a bit dangerous territory, though, doesn't it, that we're going into to Pep Guardiola? I mean, have they lost their aura? Yes,
I'd have to say so. I believe Manchester City have lost their aura. We talked about Manchester City's side under Pep Guardiola's guidance, who were dominant in the Premier League and were very intimidating. And everyone really did fair facing the Manchester City side. But now that fear factor has gone. And if you look at today's game as an example, Brighton were 1-0 down and came back to peg Manchester City to get the result. Fabian Hurtzler and Brighton deserve a lot of credit. They were the better side and overall deserved to win the game. And the substitutions that Fabian Hurtzler made had a bigger impact than Manchester City. So for me, it's worrying for Pep. It's real difficult times still. It's the most difficult time he's ever had to experience as a manager, and it just doesn't seem to be a real super defiant bright light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Gone are the days of the Manchester City dominance in the Premier League and when they played in the Champions League as well. Forget about the results, right? Let's strip away the results because sometimes they can be misleading. Just look at the game. They don't dominate games anymore like they used to. When they had so much possession, you couldn't get a sniff. You couldn't get near them. They controlled the game. They were patient. The rhythm of the play was different. They killed games off. It was almost miserable to play against them. Those days are gone, clearly. And you move to Pep, right? Has he been there too long? Has it been too stale now? Was it the Champions League and now the bellies are full and maybe as an organization they're not pushing anymore? I don't know. But I will say this about Pep. He is one of the greatest managers we've ever seen. So take nothing away from him because sometimes it can be misunderstood. But my God, how many times can you get beat the same way? There is no world in football. We saw it with Barcelona last season in the semifinal against Inter. There is no world in football where your center backs get pulled all over the place. I mean, at one point, his center backs are 70 yards away from his goal and they don't have from their own goal and they don't have the football. And he continues to get beat in the same way in the defensive transition. And he continues to say, no, we're going to play this way. But why has it worked in the past and why is it not working now then?
The personnel has changed. I still think and I've said it before, that when I look at this Manchester City side, it's not worth looking to see about what they can do attacking side of football philosophy. We know what they do. We know what Pep's about. I look at vulnerability. And for me right now, defensively, they're still vulnerable. They play the high line. It's a different personnel. It's not what he had before, where we would say they're old school footballers and leaders like Company and other players that you had in that generation. They look vulnerable defensively because they're not good individually in one-on-one situations. They take too much risks, and I feel that fear factor has gone. And we look at the partnership today of Stone and Kushinov. It's not a great partnership. It's not a great partnership to the level where you need that consistency all the way through to go on and accomplish something. So I think for me, it's more the personnel change than anything else.
I think there's too many moments of transition. When they used to play, when they were at their most successful, they didn't really have like a number 9 like Haaland that would stay in between the center backs. Remember, they played a couple seasons without one, and they kept possession. And I remember watching the Silvas and the Yaya Torres and all the fantastic Rodri, obviously, all the fantastic midfielders that they had, right? That you couldn't get the ball. They controlled the tempo of the game. Now when you watch them play, teams feel like they have a chance because there's so many moments of loose balls in transition going both ways, which was never really a Manchester City. Pep normally controls the game, right? And press after loss. Yes. Now there's too many moments where a ball goes into the striker could just knock it down, or it could just be a fluky play. I flick it or whatever, and they're swimming. They're at bay. The center backs there's 30 yards between them. One of them's all the way up here. The other one's on the other side. Now they have to slide, and it's a jailbreak every single time. The ball comes in, boom, it gets knocked down. You get guys running from the opponents from the midfield, third men, fourth men running. And for me, it just looks like the same play that keeps on happening and happening and happening. It's happened in Champions League, it happened in Premier League. They lost 16 games last season this way. And then you watch them play and you think, okay, maybe he'll tweak this. And you watch it happen again. He's come out and said, I will never change the way I set them up and the way I play and the way I want to do it. But at some point, you have to say, okay, I got to put these guys in. Now, whether it's personnel, I've got to put these guys that I have at the moment, right, that he spent a lot of money on, right? These are not just guys that he picked up off out of nowhere. I've got to put these guys in a situation to succeed. When you have the lead at 1-0, you have to find ways to manage the games better. Right now, he is one of the greatest coaches. I'm nobody to critique Pep, but I will say he's mismanaged a ton of games.
But if it is personnel, though, Nige, I mean, he has such control over his team and who's in and out the door. I mean, not many players leave Manchester City on their own accord. And he came out as well in the press not too long ago and said, I do not want any more players on my team. I want to have a small squad. I want everybody to play. I want everyone to be a part of it. So is it fall on his shoulders then? Because if it is the personnel, it still really reflects on who he's put in the squad. It is.
It's always on his shoulders. It's always on any manager's shoulders. You're responsible. You're a manager. That's why you go into the industry you're in. And he doesn't want a big squad because he finds it hard to leave top quality players out. But this is what comes part of it. You talk about being competitive in the Premier League and also Champions League because that is the ambition of Manchester City. You have to have a big squad. There's so many games in that you cannot keep playing the same players week in, week out. And it's just to touch on Grella's point, he's 100% right. And the counter press that Manchester City used to do is not at the same intensity as it was when they were dominating football matches. Now the turnover is what makes them very vulnerable. And teams don't have that fear factor. And you look at the modern game now, the amount of teams, how many weapons and players that they have that can break and cause problem. It's a difficult period for Pep Guardiola. We're not saying it's the end of Pep Guardiola, but it's a very difficult period, and right now he's slightly being out-coached by opponents that he's got, and Manchester City is still in a rebuild.
Do you think that the dressing room is still really brought into his philosophy? Because, you know, we all know what an amazing manager he is, but there has been times where Jack Grealish might be a great example where Pep wants you to play so specifically that players sometimes feel like they've lost their freedom, and now Jack Grealish has left and it feels like we're kind of seeing that old spark back. Is the messaging getting stale from him too?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the changing room, and I don't know what the messaging is, right? And I don't know what the ambitions of the club are. And I don't know.
Would it be frustrating if you have a manager that plays such a specific way, and it's great when the results are coming your way, but after years and years,
it's normal. It's normal, right? Like, you know, you go into when the new manager comes, there's an excitement. Oh, we're going to play this way, and this is what we're going to do, and everyone's competing for spots, and there's a buzz around, and then you start winning games, and you start figuring out. And then the next year, it's also okay. Let's build on this, and then the third year, and the fourth year, and the fifth year, and it's difficult for managers, I think, to find motivation. That's why you don't see it in that much in the game. You don't see managers really staying longer than 2 or 3 years. It's really not a thing you see. Obviously, Pep, one of the greats. So, but it's difficult also for him. It's a challenge that he has to motivate these guys, probably motivate himself to change new ways. You can't do the same training drills all the time. You can't have the same jokes. You can't have the same motivational speeches. You can't do any. It's all got to change and evolve and keep on going forward. So yeah, of course, after so many years together at one place, of course it gets still. Think about when we started working together, how fun it was. And now
I was just about to say, maybe you should take a look at his books, new jokes.
There are so many factors into that as well. Like you said, you've got to remotivate the players. You've got to make sure your messaging doesn't become stale and the same. And also, even for managers, you've got to change the coaches. You look at his assistant now is Pep Guardiola, who was at Liverpool with Jurgen Klopp. So you have to change that as well. I just feel that for me, that the one thing that Pep is very intense. He loves the game. His attention to detail is second to none. But there's an element where you do feel that he takes away the freedom from players. And that's what we always say, we've criticised. When players go to Manchester City, they change from the player that we saw before they get there because you have to play to the system. When you go to Manchester City, you're playing to Pep's system. It's not so much really about the individuality and the creativity. Prime example is Jack Grealish. When he went there, he was Jack Grealish for a little period. Then you could see the change slowly come out of him, the freedom being taken out of him. And now he's at Everton. We're seeing the old Jack Grealish again now, the freedom to go out there and express himself. You don't get as much room to express yourself as a player when you're playing for Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, and the last year was disappointing, wasn't it, by their standards, with them losing the Premier League title, obviously, to Liverpool, and then in the Champions League, they didn't do what they wanted to do this season in the Champions League as well. Nigel, you were talking about their schedule earlier on today. I mean, how do you see it going for Manchester City? Because the game against Napoli, even to start us off, in fact, they've got Manchester United, Napoli, Arsenal. That's their run of fixtures. It's not an easy run, is it, with the likes of Real Madrid in there as well?
It's definitely not an easy run. And again, when we keep seeing the vulnerabilities that we spoke about defensively, there's some tough fixtures in there where these teams can expose that. I mean, you look at Monaco as being one of those teams. Real Madrid is another one. Galatasaray is going to be a tough run in. Napoli's going to be tough. Napoli's going to be very defensive-minded. So it's never going to be an easy run in. I think what Pep has to do now is just find a way to really motivate these players again. You know, to not be making these silly mistakes. And if you're going to go 1-0 up, get the job done. See it out. It might not be pretty, but you've got to be probably a lot more pragmatic.
I think also in today's day and age, I mean, we watch all the games, right? But in today's day and age, these scouts and these trainers and these managers, they're watching clips and clips and clips of stuff. And they'll watch Man City and say, okay, this is how we're going to be. He was saying it when we were watching the game. He goes, I just look for the weaknesses. And their weakness is blaring. And in today's world where you can clip it and stop it and freeze it and see everything in front of you, they have this weakness in defensive transition where their back line gets stretched all over the place, right? Like I've mentioned so many times. It's there on film. These managers at the top of their games are watching this and going, this is where we're going to hurt them. He's not changing it because he's a little bit stubborn, right, in his way. And they keep on exploiting the same exact thing. And so that's my worry. It's not, yeah, okay, maybe he takes away the freedom. Maybe the message is stale. Maybe. But for me, what's blaring in front of my eyes is the defensive transition when the back line gets stretched all over the place. And then there's moments where the team gets stretched from front to back as well. So unless he goes back and says, oh, listen, we got to be better in these moments and fixes those things, obviously he can see it too, then the team, for me, is not going to improve. 4 goals conceded in the last 2 games and 2 losses this early on in the season is not Manchester City-like.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? And obviously, as we mentioned, they've got a really tough schedule coming up, and it all starts after the international break when they'll take on Manchester United in the Manchester derby.